For today's video, we will tackle about different physical items for marksmen and when they are good to build. Special thanks to 𝘾𝙊𝙎𝙾𝙍 for always giving me a super thanks. I appreciate your gifts, bro. Thank you so much. Before we start, if you want to watch support gameplay and no miseries build, for support you can check out her YouTube channel. Please support her channel too. Thanks. Our first build is Axe of Torment. It is good to build for heroes that have short skill cooldowns, since it has a slow effect every time you hit an enemy. I usually build this when I use 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎, Lady Sun, Lubin, and also Consort U. It is good to build this item first for the heroes that I mentioned. Its slow is the best effect of this item since it can help you to chase down enemies or escape from them. Plus it also have a physical penetration and a 10% cooldown. It will help you more to poke enemies with your skills using this build. Our second build is Eternity Blade. Most of the marksmen build this since it will increase your critical damage massively. I usually build this second to third slot of my build. Most of the marksmen that use this build is Arli, 𝘾𝙊𝙎𝙎𝙀𝙏, Huang Zhang, and 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀𝙁. When you build this item, priority the Shadow Ripper first before Eternity Blade, since Shadow Ripper can help you more in kiting, but if you prefer more damage, build this first. Next is Shadow Ripper. It is the best build for marksmen since it has a lot of effect. Increases basic attack after a critical hit and increases also attack and movement speed. This build can help you kite and reposition with its extra movement speed from the item and from the effect. This build is very helpful to marksmen who doesn't have a dash or movement skill like 𝘾𝙎𝙎, Lubin, Luara, and Consort U. I build this item for most of the marksmen that I use. Next is Doomsday. This item is good for marksmen who have a very high attack speed since its effect is basic attack deals extra damage per hit. It is good for 𝘾𝙎𝙎, 𝘊𝙄𝙎, Arli since they have a very quickie basic attack rule. Also, it can help you to melt enemies that have a huge health since its effect deals 8% of enemies' health, so make sure to build this in a marksman when there are many high health enemies. Next is a Sparkforged Dagger. It is good to build again to a marksman who have a high attack speed since it is also per hit. I usually build this to 𝘊𝙄𝙎𝙎 and 𝘾𝙎𝙎𝙎. It also have a lightning effect per hit. Next is Blood Sweeper. The only explanation to this is it have a massive lifesteal. Also, it recovers a small portion of your health when it drops to 30%. It is good to build when enemy doesn't have anti-lifesteal since you can tank more damage since your lifesteal will be massive. I usually build this to Consort U, Lubin, and 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀. Don't build this item if there are many enemies that uses anti-lifesteal. Starbreaker. It is the most expensive item in the physical item shop, and it has a good effect with a total of 40% penetration for long-range heroes, and plus 100 basic attack damage for long-range hero. Also, I usually build this 4th or 5th slot in my build slot, but if you need the penetration because there are many tanky enemies, you can build this in your third item. I build them when I am using Arli, Consort U, 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀, and 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀. Next is Destiny. The short explanation to this is you will be immortal for 0.5 seconds for marksmen if you're about to die. I don't build this most of the time, but I buy this item when my Sage's Sanctuary is cooldown, since this item will save you in 0.5 seconds. Is a huge time when it comes to late game. Master Sword. This item is also good at marksmen who have a spam skills like 𝘰𝙬𝙎𝙾𝙍, Lady Sun, and 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙾𝙍. It will give you a short movement speed boost, plus your next basic attack will be enhanced by 80% of your physical attack. It will help you to easily burst down enemies after a skill. Also, it will help you to kite, since it will also boost your movement speed. For 2 seconds, this is good to build second or third slot build. Next is Starbreaker. This item, since it has also have a 10% cooldown reduction, is good again for skill spammer marksmen like 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙾𝙍, Lung, and Lady Sun. If you build this item, don't build the Daybreaker, because 40% physical penetration from the Daybreaker will not going to take effect. Next build is 𝘾𝙊𝙋𝙋𝙄𝙂𝙃. I only build this item to Lung and nothing else, since with this item Lung can one-hit combo the mage or marksman enemy. It has a good effect that deals more damage when the health of enemies drop to 50%. Next is Dre Forge Tempest. This item is good to skiller type marksmen like 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀𝙀 or Arli, but most of the time I only build this in 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀𝙀, since it will help him to fire his 3 enhanced basic attacks in his first skill faster. Next is Dre Forge Skypiercer. Honestly guys, I don't build this in any kind of marksman that I used, so I can't actually recommend this build to you at all. Its effect is reduced enemy physical def by 10% for 2 seconds, and it has also a knockback effect if you hit enemy with your basic attack after activating the item. Next is Deep Frost Siege. It is good for heroes like 𝘿𝙄𝙎𝙎𝙀𝙀. It has a slow effect every time you hit the enemies. Also, it has an extra basic attack damage per hit. It will help you to kite more while slowing down the enemies, and also help you to chase them easily with this item's effect. I usually build this 3rd or 4th item. Next is Mortal Punisher. It has an anti-heal effect. When you hit the enemies with your basic attack, it will reduce their health recovery by 35% if you have enemies with massive heal and your teammates don't build anti-heal. Try to build this one instead of Bloodsweeper or Doomsday. I usually build this kind of item from 4th to 5th item, but it will depend if you need the anti-heal ASAP guys. Try to build it in your 3rd slot if you need it. Next is Demon Bane. I don't use this build to any of my marksmen that I used, but there is a time when I use Byron. This is the one I used when I need magic defense. You can try that if you use Byron 3rd to 4th item slot. Next is Pure Sky. I only build this item to Lung most of the time. I always build this last when there are enemies that can reach me, since its effect is lowering the damage of the first enemy that you hit. Also, it has an active effect that when you used you will gain 30% damage reduction, so it is good to build when there are enemies that can dive you and burst you easily using Lung. Most of the time Pure Sky is built by jungle heroes and clash lane heroes, since it will help them to take damage and tank more in the clash. Also, they can use it to clutch a fight when they are about to get die. Lastly, my favorite item, Sunchaser. It have a good effect. Basic attack increases 100 for long range heroes. Also, its active effect It will increase your range. This item is best to build when you are using Arli, Consort U, and Geralt. With this item you can easily pick off one mage or marksman when you are using Arli, or you can go to a safe spot. Activate this item, then free hit from afar. I usually build this 4th to 5th build, depends if I need penetration. If you don't need penetration you can go for Sunchaser first, since it can help you to free hit more in team fights.